Alright, so you've jumped into Project Mugetsu as a Soul Reaper, huh? That's awesome! Now, if you're familiar with the Bleach universe, you know that every Soul Reaper needs two key things, a Shikai and a Bankai. But here's the thing, not all Shikais and Bankais are created equal. Some are absolute beasts, while others, well, let's just say they might not be the best for powering you up. So if you're wondering whether to stick with what you got or re-roll for something better, you're in the right place. In this video, we're diving into the tier lists for Shikai and Bankai in Project Mugetsu. I'll be breaking down the best, the good, and the not so great, so you can figure out if you're rocking the right abilities, or if it's time to try your luck for something stronger. Trust me, you don't want to waste your time with a weak setup when there's so much potential out there. Stick around, and I'll help you become the Soul Reaper you're destined to be. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking Shikais and Bankais in Project Mugetsu. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. First, let's start with the Shikais. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Hyorinmaru and Zangetsu. Let's talk about some of the Shikai in Project Mugetsu that land in the B tier. These aren't terrible, but they're definitely not top tier picks either. If you're stuck with one of these for now, don't worry. They're decent enough to grind mobs, but don't expect them to carry you through the endgame. First up, we've got Hyorinmaru. It's got some potential with its AoE attack, which can be pretty handy when you're clearing out a bunch of enemies at once. But let's be real, those ice traps it throws out are not going to make or break your battles. If you're still rocking Hyorinmaru, it's good for the grind, but definitely consider upgrading as soon as you can. Then there's Zangetsu. Oh boy. Zangetsu is like that old friend you've known forever, but you're not really sure why you still hang out with them. The moves are basic, the Tenbu Renjin is a bit of fun, but it's honestly one of those Shikai you'll probably want to reroll as soon as something better comes your way. There's no real flair or special advantage here, just straightforward slashes and swings. If you've got it, use it for the time being, but don't get too attached. Once you get a better option, it's time to say goodbye to Zangetsu. In the world of Project Mugetsu, these Shikai are a stepping stone. They'll get you through some challenges, but don't expect them to be your go-to long-term. If you're looking to keep your gameplay fresh and exciting, you'll need something a bit more powerful than these guys. But hey, they're not the worst options out there, so keep grinding, and before you know it, you'll have a Shikai that'll really make those enemies sweat. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Ryujin Jaka, Nazarashi, Senbonzakura, and Kamishini. Alright, let's get into it. We're diving into some of the top Shikai in Project Mugetsu. These are the ones you definitely want to keep your eye on if you're aiming for those clutch plays. Whether you're up against hordes of enemies or challenging another player, these Shikai bring the heat. So let's break them down. First up, we've got Ryujin Jaka. Now, I know a lot of people struggle with this one because the range is a bit on the short side, but trust me when I say that when you land those hits, the damage is just devastating. It's all about being up close and personal with your enemy, setting them on fire with some seriously heavy attacks. If you can manage to close the gap, you're in for one of the most powerful Shikai in the game. Next on the list is Nazarashi, and let me tell you, this Shikai is as dynamic as they come. It's perfect for those of you who love getting in close to the action. With Nazarashi, you're all about those devastating blows, just pure raw power up close. The downside? Not much for AoE. If you're looking to clear out mobs, this one's not the best option. But when it comes to one-on-one fights, you're gonna have a blast. Now we've got Senbonzakura. Is it the most powerful Shikai out there? Maybe not, but it's certainly one of the most fun. The projectiles it fires are super satisfying to use, and teleporting around just feels so good. Plus, you've got a solid AoE attack to back you up. It's not gonna wreck everything in its path, but if you're playing PvP, it gives you plenty of options to keep your opponent guessing. Let's talk about Kamishini now. If you're a fan of long combos and melee attacks, this Shikai is going to be your best friend. The damage output is great, and the AoE attack is really solid as well. It's perfect for those who like to get right into the action and overwhelm their enemies with relentless attacks. It's got a good balance between speed and power, so you can really dish out some serious damage. Now, if you're trying to be that player who has a little bit of everything, these Shikai will give you options. Ryujin Jaka is all about that raw firepower, Nazarashi is for the up-close brawler, Senbonzakura offers versatility and fun in PvP, and Kamishini brings the combo game with some great AoE. So whether you're a fiery brawler, a sneaky teleporter, or just love landing those epic combos, there's a Shikai here for everyone. Pick the one that matches your playstyle, and you're sure to have an amazing time in Project Mugetsu. And hey, if you're still figuring out which one to choose, just try them all out and see what clicks for you. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Ichimonji and Minazuki. Alright, let's dive into two Shikai that are absolutely killing it in Project Mugetsu right now. Ichimonji and Minazuki. If you've been playing this game for a while, you know how important it is to get your hands on strong Shikai, and trust me, these two are top tier for a reason. Let's break down why they're taking the spotlight. First up, Ichimonji. This Shikai isn't just about looking cool, it's about absolutely messing up your opponents. The thing that makes Ichimonji stand out is the sheer number of debuffs it can apply. Whether it's Blind, Ant, Seal, or Blacken, almost every ability in Ichimonji's arsenal comes with a chance, or is guaranteed, to slap a debuff on your enemy. Plus, let's not forget about the ranged moves that let you attack from a distance. And the cherry on top? The final ability, Futen Taisatsuryo, summons a shrine that causes massive damage to your enemy. It's a brutal way to end any fight, and if you're looking for consistent pressure on your foes, this Shikai has you covered. Then we have Minazuki. Now, if you're into fast-paced, in-your-face action, Minazuki is the one for you. This Shikai's all about slashing and spilling blood. You can tag your opponent and teleport around them, leaving behind a trail of damage as you go. The bleeding effect it applies can absolutely wreck someone over time, especially in PvP. Every time you land an attack, your enemy is left trying to stop the damage from stacking, and they can't escape because you're always on them. Minazuki just brings the heat, and it's so much fun to use. It's the kind of Shikai that makes you feel like a true force of nature. When you compare Ichimonji and Minazuki, they both have their strengths, but the key difference is in playstyle. Ichimonji excels in disrupting enemies with debuffs and using range to control the fight, while Minazuki is all about relentless aggression and quick teleporting strikes. Both are amazing in their own right, so it really comes down to how you want to approach the battle. But one thing's for sure, whether you're making your opponent blind or leaving them bleeding, these two are S tier for a reason. You can't go wrong with either of them. Now it's Bankai's turn. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Daigoren Hyorinmaru and Tensa Zangetsu. Alright, let's talk about some of the Bankais in Project Mugetsu that sit comfortably in the B tier. These aren't terrible by any means, but they're definitely not going to blow your mind either. First up, we have Daigoren Hyorinmaru. The upgraded ice attacks here are pretty solid for grinding, and while it's not the absolute best Bankai in the game, it's a nice middle-of-the-road pick. If you're just starting out or haven't unlocked something better yet, it'll do the job. Just know that eventually, you'll want to upgrade when you get your hands on a stronger Bankai. Next, let's talk about Tensa Zangetsu. Now, if you've used the Shikai, you'll already notice a slight improvement with the Bankai. It's definitely a step up, but still not quite as game-changing as some of the other higher-tier options. This one is like that reliable friend who shows up to the party but doesn't quite steal the show. It's useful for sure, but don't get too attached. It's best to replace it as soon as you unlock something more powerful. All in all, B-tier Bankais are kind of the meh middle ground of the game. They do their job well enough for now, but you're definitely going to want to move on once you get something with a little more oomph. So, if you find yourself using Daigoren Hyorinmaru or Tensa Zangetsu, don't worry, you're not doing terrible, but keep grinding for those S-tier upgrades, because that's where the real fun begins. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Kamishini no Yari, and Senbonzakura Kageyoshi. Alright, let's dive into some of the coolest Bankais in Project Mugetsu, the A-tier ones that pack a punch, without overshadowing the rest of the game. First up, we've got Kamishini no Yari. This one is just a masterpiece when it comes to visuals. Honestly, it feels like you're wielding a divine weapon. But it's not all looks. This Bankai strikes a perfect balance between ranged and melee attacks. Whether you're slicing through enemies up close or picking them off from a distance, it's versatile enough to keep your enemies on their toes. Next up is Senbonzakura Kageyoshi. It's definitely one of the flashiest Bankais out there. If you love a little style in your combat, this one's got it. Those gorgeous cherry blossom petals flying everywhere during the AoE attacks just make it stand out. Now, while it might not hit as hard as some others, it's still a solid choice in battle. You've got that ability to overwhelm your enemies with tons of attacks at once, which can really throw off anyone who's not prepared. All in all, Kamishini no Yari and Senbon Zakura Kageyoshi bring something unique to the table in Project Mugetsu. Kamishini no Yari is the all-around powerhouse, while Senbon Zakura Kageyoshi brings the style and crowd control. These bankais are definitely worth considering if you want that perfect balance between damage and utility. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Zanka no Tachi, Nozarashi, and Minazuki. Alright, let's dive into some of the most epic bankai in Project Mugetsu. We're talking about the absolute monsters in the game that can turn the tide of any battle. These bankai aren't just strong, they're the kind of abilities that'll make your opponents start questioning their life choices. First up, we've got Zenka no Tachi. Now this one, it's a game changer. You summon skeletons, and then, just when you think it couldn't get any cooler, you get an AoE Fire Ring. The combination of both already makes this one of the strongest abilities in the game. But wait, there's more! The Downward Slash is a brutal addition, and if you pull off the Tenshi Kaijin, it's basically game over for anyone nearby. Seriously, this bankai feels like you've just summoned a whole army to destroy your enemies. It's overpowered in the best way possible. Then we've got Nozarashi. If you love getting up close and personal with your enemies, this one's for you. Nozarashi's bankai is all about close-range combat, but it's like someone took all the power-ups and cranked them up to 11. The Scream ability? Yeah, that's a stun move that hits anyone in its path, and it's so satisfying to watch your enemies freeze in place while you unleash destruction on them. It's intense, and honestly, it's hard to find a better bankai for pure close-range chaos. Moving on to Minazuki, and trust me, this one is just as lethal as it sounds. Imagine the Shikai, but with even more flair and deadly effects. The Blood Rampage is one of the coolest abilities in the game. You get to unleash a blood-fueled frenzy that shreds everything in its path. But don't forget the Blood Clot move. When you pull that off at the right time, it's like a surprise gift to your enemies, and they never see it coming. It's flashy, deadly, and a blast to use. Now, let's talk strategy. These bankai aren't just about raw power. They've got style, and each one has a unique playstyle that can change the way you approach combat. With Zanka no Tachi, you've got a balance between summoning minions and causing widespread destruction with that fire ring. Nozarashi demands precision and timing, making it perfect for players who love dominating in close range, while Minazuki's Bloodlust powers let you overwhelm opponents with a mix of speed and surprise. If you're trying to decide between them, just ask yourself, do you want overwhelming destruction, the thrill of close-range dominance, or the satisfaction of pulling off a bloody, chaotic rampage? Whatever your choice, these S-tier bankai are sure to make you feel like a true force of nature in Project Mugetsu. So get ready to mess things up, because with any of these, victory is practically guaranteed. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.